Hello, welcome to the Housing Sector Podcast on what must be the wettest day so far. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 10th of September. I've got about 5 podcasts to record today, and Lee, you are my first one. Lee, thank you very much indeed for coming on. The first question I have for you, and it's a noun, a collective noun, a phrase that we hear bandied around a lot. What exactly do we mean by fleecehold?
Well, Ben, first of all, thanks for inviting me on. It's an honour and a privilege to be here. I'd be lying if I said I've been following you for a long time, because you reached out for me literally less than 2 weeks ago. So I haven't had time to catch up with any podcasts. I'm going in here completely blind, which is probably the best way to do it, really. Fleecehold is when homeowners on new estates have to pay a private management company ongoing fees for roads, parks, or green spaces that should normally be adopted and maintained by local councils. In a nutshell, it basically means you thought you were buying a freehold, but really you've been fleeced. So it's a play on words, really.
Okay, so I still don't quite understand. So we've got you're on a new estate, and around the country, not just you, people have new estates, and then suddenly you have to maintain the upkeep of the road.
Well, no, we don't. We have to pay for it. It's like a second council tax, basically. And they're very sort of sly and coy when they're talking about it, when you're sort of looking at your house. And this is where a lot of the issue comes from, and this is what most people in this sector are talking about. We have literally been missold our properties. So 10 years ago, I met my now girlfriend. We're actually getting a civil partnership next month, so thank you.
Congratulations.
And we were both living in separate houses in the same area, and we got together, and after a couple of years we moved in together, and we were renting. And we both said, look, what are we doing this for? What are we throwing this money away? Let's get a house. We know that we want to spend the rest of his life together. Let's get a house. So we found a house on an estate, and we went to go look around it. And like I said, they were very coy about the maintenance fee at first. And obviously, you've fallen in love with this house. You know, you've got your mindset on it. It's the most expensive and important purchase of your life is buying a house for most people. And so we looked around, and the woman there, she was like, oh, isn't it beautiful? You know, and she's putting the sales nonsense on, and you're like, yeah. And they coyly tell you about this management fee, but they don't tell you sort of how it works, how much you'll have to pay, the fact that it's uncapped, it's unregulated. They keep all that bit out, and they say to you, oh, it's about £100, you know. And you're thinking in your head, well, £100, you know, for Alan Tishmarsh to be coming around and doing his topiary and, you know, making it a beautiful estate with all these spherical hedges and stuff like this, because that's how they sell it to you. And you think, oh, this is great, you know, and it's cheaper than Netflix. You know, you're just like, this is a no-brainer, yeah. So you're not concentrating on that part of it. And even when, you know, you see the solicitor, which funnily enough, they've put in place, that solicitor is not warning you about any of this stuff. So it kind of goes under the radar. And like I say, you're not thinking about it because you've already been sold the house and you know that you want that house. And basically, what sort of exposed it more than anything really was COVID and lockdown, because they never came out during COVID and lockdown. And the space is just an absolute nightmare. And it's still an absolute nightmare 7 years on. I haven't done anything with it. And me and my fellow residents have been emailing the developer and the management company, you know, who's going to pay for this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the pictures of what my estate looks like, but basically, without giving too much detail, this is it. So
Well,
this green.
I'll put up a screenshot because you sent me that, and I thank you for that. And I'll put up a screenshot so people can see that. That will be here in the screen somewhere.
Okay, well, I think there's kind of like 2 screenshots, but I'll send you this one because this is the more important one, because I live in a cul-de-sac which accounts for 1/5 of the whole estate. And there's 20 houses here, and I'm sure I sent you a graphic. So the blue bit is the grass that basically gets cut, because this was sold to us as a grass cutting service. Some service it's been, though. I mean, half of the time they don't even come to our estate because the gardeners haven't been told that, we're a cul-de-sac off of the main estate, so they just miss it. And it's just never been kept in decent condition. Residents have sort of questioned them and they've just argued. It's funny because most time that you talk to the gardeners, they spend most time slagging the company off, and you're just like, oh. And every time they come, it's someone different. You just know that this isn't a company that is providing a service. It's more of a debt management kind of scam that's going on. And the evidence is there in full place to suggest that that's exactly what it is. It's not a service. We're not getting our money's worth. And there's literally nothing that we can do. The
Okay, well,
developers
let's
give
play,
you a house and then they handcuff you to a private company forever.
let me
And there's
play
nothing
devil.
to do.
Let me play devil's advocate a bit here, Lee. So you're paying for a service, and let's assume that is just to cut the grass and trim the hedges in your little cul-de-sac, and that's what you're paying for.
Hmm.
When that doesn't happen, you've got consumer rights, surely.
Well, apparently those consumer rights don't apply in property law, and that's one thing that myself and the Hornets are trying to push legislation to move that away. I mean, the last two governments, the Conservatives and the Tories, have just sort of let this go under the radar for so long that it's just become normalised. Nobody is going to question it, and that's how it's sold to you when you first go for your house. It's like, oh well, this is normal now. You know, just expect to pay it. I mean, another thing as well that I took to a tribunal when I first bought my house was the council tax issue. So we live on a very old council estate, and all the houses here very old, very cheap. And as you know, I'm sure you've discussed it many a times in the past. It works on what your property would be worth in 1991. And that's how council tax works. Now, obviously, houses are a lot more expensive now, and they're never going to be the same price that they were in 1991. There's loads of reasons why that is. The technology that goes into building a house, inflation, all sorts of stuff. So everybody on our estate is paying. We're in a band C, which is hundreds of pounds more than a band A. So not only are we paying hundreds of pounds more in council tax, we've got this second council tax from a private management service, because that's what they call it. And I'm just like, no, I'm not having this. But like I say, it really became exposed because of COVID, because they just were never coming out and nothing ever got done. And we were just stuck with this trash kind of state that just looked awful. And they're still not doing it. And all they do, the developers and the private companies, just deflect, ignore, and just pass you off to, other places. Say that they're just not interested. They want nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Okay, let me try and unpick some of it. So we've got the council tax issue, which is a separate issue. Then we've got the management fees, and you've taken the council to a tribunal over council tax.
I did take them to a tribunal initially because, like I say, this is the first time I've ever bought a house. I don't know anything about houses or anything. I was new to the game. I've learned a hell of a lot now, though, a hell of a lot. Um, but yeah, obviously, the system is just rigged. It's just it's profit before people, and it needs to change. I mean, a lot of people know that council tax is an unfair system anyway. That is completely different to private companies, and their private management fees. So that they're two different entities, but they both need to be revised and addressed and regulated properly, I think.
Okay, so you took the council to a tribunal. How did that shape? What's entailed there, and what was the outcome?
Uh, So the tribunal, I basically went to the council, and they basically had a few solicitors there or whatever, and we sat around a round table, and I put my case across along with some other people from other states, and all of us just got shut down. It's like, this is how it is, accept it, move on. There was really no room for maneuver. They didn't really want to listen. I mean, council tax has been in place for God knows how long anyway. You're not going to get around that. That is a separate issue. It really is. But the two issues combine a big issue.
I don't understand why. So we got the council tax. Okay, we'll put that one to bed. That's up to them. You're stuck there. But then you're paying for an extra service which isn't covered by your council tax, but in theory is because it's everything that we all pay council tax for.
Well, this is it. And this is what we've been arguing for God knows how long. It's like, well, why have they put this handcuff on us? Um, it's a company that don't care about the estate. They've made that quite clear because they haven't tidied it up in the whole 7, 8 years that we've been here. And this is why, we're challenging it. The problem is, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of the Hornets.
No, please continue. We have to assume, I and the people that listen and watch these podcasts, we won't know. We won't know your specific case. We'll have other people say. So please, as much information as you can get. So who are the Hornets?
So the Hornets, they've been around since around 2000. There's an increasing number of privately managed estates with public facilities where the common surrounding land and land the developers own is not adopted by the local council. So what they're doing is they're pushing for legislation. And the two people that run it, good friends of mine. I've never met them in person, but I've been doing a lot of campaigning with them. And they're just normal people like me and you. That I just feel bullied and harassed, we're paying for poor services, and we're just angry. So they set this up, and it's a big campaign to basically push against Fleecehold. I don't know how much you know about Fleecehold, but with you're stuck in a leasehold sort of thing, aren't you?
We got a shared ownership, but
Yeah.
the part of the reason of the pocket and people like yourself, I call reluctant heroes, and we're growing in numbers. None of us chose to get involved in this, and yet we've had to because we're having to defend our homes and our own financial woes. So yeah, and the podcast really is about finding people like yourself, having these conversations because there are lots of people out there on their own struggling. And whilst the housing associations and the likes of the National Housing Federation and the Chartered Institute of Housing, they have all these big events where they tell everyone how great they're doing. It's people like you and me, Lee, who are, at the coalface, trying to raise our voice, trying to be heard. And it sounds like you've had the same sort of journey that many of us have. It's trying to get over, I call it content wars, trying to get our voices heard. And this is coming from a sector that goes, we listen to our customers at the heart of everything they do. And it simply isn't the case. And you're another example of that. Lee, the question that people must be thinking is, hang on a minute, you've got a service, you've got evidence that it's not being carried out. Why haven't you stopped paying them?
Because they will literally take your house off you. That's what clause they've got in you. It's written into your deeds that if you do not pay this company, then they'll just take your house off you. They act like debt management companies, so they send arbitrary invoices out once, maybe twice a year, and they've actually doubled since we moved in here. So in 7 years, it's doubled. And when I raised this to the management company, they had the gall to turn around and say, well, everything goes up with inflation. And I'm just thinking, really? My council tax hasn't doubled in 7 years.
Well, I
You
shouldn't
know,
think your wages gone up by that much either, has
yeah,
it?
exactly. There's a cost of living crisis the cost of living crisis going on for everybody. But it seems that if you're a homeowner, you've just dealt with, more contempt. They do not want to know. They do not want to know at all, and it's so irritating because I've said I don't even know where to start, honestly. Basically, our management company have been putting 5-star reviews on Google, and we know that it's them because we've actually seen their names and pictures of them. Um, I've I've sent that to the Advertising Standards Authority and Trading Standards. I've got in contact with many different organisations to try and expose them, and I'm just having so much apathy. Basically, nobody seems interested. And going back to my street, like I said, I live on a cul-de-sac. There's 20 houses, makes up a fifth of the estate. They've charged us over £100,000, and we haven't seen literally any change whatsoever. They'll send out some gardeners a few times a year, And when you speak to them, they don't even know what they've come on site for. You know, they've not been given a list of stuff to do. They don't even know what they're maintaining. My neighbour had an argument with them about the street sign once, and they said, "Oh, we don't touch street signs." It was like, but on the plans it says that you do. It was like, "Oh, phoned his head office." Turns out that they do that. And he's like, "Oh." I mean, we end up just putting flowers and wooden bark down on certain areas just because we're sick of them not doing anything. So not only are we being charged by them, beyond our control, I'm actually going out spending money to make the place look better, just to sort of like soothe my sort of annoyance with it, if you like.
Lee, I understand if you don't want to name them, but who are these people?
Well, I've thought about this. The main developers that the CMA have been investigating are your sort of Red Rose and your Taylor Wimpers and stuff like that. Ours is a little less known developer called Keepmoat. Depending on how
Sorry,
much you know
I didn't
about.
quite catch that. Who are they?
Keepmoat are the developer, and then they're definitely in cohorts with another company called Blue Property Management. Now, Blue Property Management are the worst company I have ever dealt with in my whole entire life. I've got so much evidence of how they've just treated us with contempt and deflected and just ignored. And I'm building up a massive case at the moment. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at my G drive that I sent you.
I don't, Lee. I like to come to these conversations not knowing, so I can,
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's
you know,
fine. I mean, I only
it,
sent it an hour
it,
before we started
it's
talking
it
anyway.
also sounds like I'm being lazy and I'm not
No, no, no,
preparing.
no, not at all, not at
I
all. I mean, you could say the same about me. I've not watched any of your podcasts, so
well, there we go,
unlike you, I
both in
want to
the
go in
same boat.
blind.
But it's important to sort of get that and any evidence you share. So hang on, but you've got all these, you've got these, you're raising these issues. You're being told that you could lose your home if you argue it. But what sort of support have you got from MPs, councillors, the press?
My local councillor, Wayne Dixon of SDP, he's actually been very, very good, but he has very, very little power when it comes to sort of main government and any sort of moving legislation. Our more sort of wider MP, he's absolutely useless. Hillary Benn, his name is. You might have known Tony Benn was his father, great politician, very
Yeah,
ethical, nice guy. But Hillary Benn just ignores everything. Well, at first he did start copying and pasting ridiculous comments that they said they were going to change all this, and he didn't even bother formatting it. So it just like every sort of sentence was a different font, and he was just like, "Really? Are you in charge of something as important as this, and you can't even send a decent email that's been formatted?" You know,
yeah. Wow,
these are the idiots that are running the country.
sometimes the apple does fall far from the tree, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. Okay. Look, this is obviously, and I can tell from talking to you, you're a smart guy, and this has rattled your cage, and you're annoyed by it. Collectively, how many people on your estate are you pulling together to sort of fight with you?
Well, this is where we're sort of making waves at the moment. So, as I mentioned, we're just a fifth of our estate. There's 93 houses on our estate, and we've got a Facebook chat, and everybody talks and blah blah blah, but nobody seems to do anything. They're all there just whinging, and I'm like the one in the background doing all the emails. And we've got a WhatsApp group on our street. So I just said, look, guys, I'm going to write to them and just say we want our cul-de-sac to be taken off of the TP1. We don't feel that we're getting his money's worth, and so I wrote to them and I got everybody's email address who was a freehold property, because there are some social housing on ours, and I think I pulled together is either 13 or 14 of the 20 houses, and they all supported me and said, look, we fully back Richard's um, you know sort of plan to let us go, basically. Let us manage it ourselves,
The
or
right to
give it back to the
manage.
local council. Yeah, right to manage. But that's not really an option that they feel benefits them, because obviously they're going to lose money. But because going back to the main estate, I was just, there was so much apathy from everybody else, and I was doing everything. I just thought, you know what, I've spent so long trying to get you guys on board, and nobody's giving me that. So I've just took it to a shorter kind of situation, if you like, where I'm just sort of sticking up for my residents on my cul-de-sac. It's a massive, massive feat, and I'm not expecting to win. But as you know, well, I don't know if you do know, but people that have got freehold properties that are locked into these private management companies, we can't even challenge it at the first tier tribunal. So you've actually got more powers than people that own their own properties. And that's another thing that we're pushing for via the Hornets and via people that are just as pissed off as me and you. You know, we all should have a voice, but it's just been flattened by politics and, you know, bureaucracy and greed, basically.
Well, they need people to build all these new homes and they need people to manage them. And it's just another, as you say, it's another stealth tax.
Yeah.
Lee,
Well,
I understand that the one man army and, you know, there's always lots of people behind you until you need them stood behind you. I've had that myself here. And you got to be understanding for that. People are afraid and they've also got their own
yeah.
lives to run. And it's difficult for people to, like yourself. Look, you said, you know, you bought this property with your partner and good luck with your civil partnership next week, I think you said. Good luck with that. But what sort of impact has this had on you, your relationships, your personal life?
You remember Disco Stew from the Simpsons?
No.
Okay, he had a massive afro. Well, that was me before I bought my house, and now I'm losing my bloody hair. That's how
Right.
bad it's been. I have been so stressed, um, but I refuse to give in. It's kind of become a secret. Well, not secret. It's kind of become a little hobby of mine to put these assholes to account and really just keep fighting and fighting. And I've got it in me, and I will not stop until fairness is on the table. Because yeah, it's had a massive impact on my life, and that's not just me getting, you know, emotional and, you know, being a bit of a melt. It really, really has had a massive impact on me. I'm in discussions with my solicitor at the moment, who helped me buy the property because they were put in place by the developer. You know, there's a lot of people, and I've got to be careful what I say here, but there's a lot of people that don't just see this as the next PPI scam, but they see it as an embezzlement scam. Now, if you look into embezzlement and you look into how these companies work and the fact that a lot of them are abroad, there's a lot of questions that need answering. And we were given a promise by Keir Starmer in the King's speech that they would have all this sorted out in their first term. But the way that they've backtracked on this and many other things, I've just got zero confidence in this government. And I just think because they've just let us down so much, not just with this, but with everything that you see in the media, we're going to end up with a horrible right wing government. You know what I'm talking about. And we're just going to become the next America. We're just going to be a cheap pound shop, shitty island that, you know, has got nothing to be proud of. We really are, and that really is a fear for me. I don't have kids. I don't want kids, and one of the reasons I don't is because I can see how toxic this world has become. I don't want to be. I don't want to pass that on to somebody else. Sorry, but I get emotional.
No, no, and rightfully so. I like to end these podcasts on a positive note, but it's a hard one when we're in such fighting for our homes and you know, the lifestyles of the future for the children that, you know, you and I have chosen not to have, but you know, many do obviously. Lee, stay in contact, keep up the good fight. Don't let it, you know, it's a heavy burden. Welcome to the club. You're another one of our reluctant heroes. No, none of us chose to do this. None of us woke up one day and went, you know what, I'm going to become a campaigner. But you find yourself amongst good company, and there is a growing number of people who are going, enough is enough. I want my home to be safe, secure, warm, affordable, and I shouldn't have to go to all this effort. Lee, send me any information you want and we'll get some screenshots up and we'll share it with people. Anything you want me to link, I'll put in the comments field, and stay in contact. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Absolutely fantastic. Good to speak to you, Ben. Take care, mate.